Martin O'Malley, the former administrator of the Social Security Administration, former Maryland governor, is making a run for chair of the DNC, and it's great to see you.
Thanks, great to be with both of you.
Bringing your message to us here. You're trying to strike a tone of optimism, and what a lot of Democrats see is a dark time. How do you do it?
Well, I have been talking to so many people all across the country, and everyone's trying to figure out what can we learn from this. Where are the places where we actually got it right, and how can we change so that we can win elections? Because when we lose, everybody loses. So these are the conversations I've been having. And we have to do two things at the same time. We have to rebuild our party, and we have to reconnect with the working people across America who are experiencing a higher cost of living. That's what we need to do. That's always been the core of our party since FDR. It's really an acknowledging that the most important place in America is a family's kitchen table. And we became a little bit untethered from that at the national level. But our politics is not the politics of fear. Our politics is the politics of hope, of making sure that working people can feed their kids, can send them to good schools, can retire with dignity and grace. Yeah. So those are the issues that we have to get back to. When we do, we win. Let me give you a few examples, since we're doing, and thank you for calling it, what did you call it? This is not a postmortem. We are not dead. We are going to come back.
Post-election analysis.
Post-election analysis, the after action. Our candidates left it all out on the field, and in some places we were successful. You know, I was talking to Sharif Street in Pennsylvania. I know they just called Senator Casey's election, or he conceded. And at the federal level, Pennsylvania, we were disappointed. We lost that state by 2 points. But at the state level, they kept all of their gains from these years past, so they didn't suffer any reversal in their state house. I was talking to the chair of Alaska. They flipped both of their legislative chambers in Alaska, and Hakeem Jeffries and his caucus were able to gain 6 seats in the House. So when we talk about jobs and opportunity and connect the dots in clear ways so that people can see we are making choices that make their family's future a thing to prefer rather than a thing to dread, then we win elections. And that's what we need to do.
So it sounds like what you're talking about might just be populism, if I could generalize. It's something that Donald Trump has really tried to seize on. And I wonder if that means populism is really the only thing that is going to win elections in this modern era.
You know what I would call it? I would call it an economy that works for all of us.
And what's the difference between those descriptions? And
when we have an economy that works for all of us, the democracy supports it. It is very popular. So I guess the difference is this. Look, as a Democrat and a lifelong Democrat, I believe that our economy is not money. It's people. It's all of our people. And the greatness of our country comes from investing in our people and the hope that we see in the eyes of our children and making college more affordable instead of making income more inequitable. When our country worked very, very well and was the envy of the globe, it was because we were investing in a stronger and growing middle class. But we came away from that over the last 40 years. Now I hear the incoming president talking about money and Bitcoin, when instead what the American people want us to talk about is them, the reality around their kitchen table. I am a kitchen table progressive. If we don't deliver the goods of the republic that make a republic worth having, then our party has lost its way.
Yeah, we heard from so many voters during the campaign who told us that it was the kitchen table they wanted to talk about.
Absolutely.
The Democrats had veered into identity politics, and at least they knew Donald Trump had a good economy and no new wars. Those were the 2 lines that we kept hearing. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, I think people across our country actually have a lot more curiosity and interest in talking about our economy and how it works and how it can be made to work better for their home and their kitchen table than a lot of the pundits or the media consultants give them credit for. For example, when I was running for re-election in Maryland as governor, my own consultants told us people don't want it, they're still feeling bad We're not all the way out of the recession. Don't talk about the economy because they're not feeling great. Just run scary negative ads about the other guy. And I said, hell no, we're not going to do that. We're going to talk about the things that people care about. And we made the economic argument about the things we were doing to make our schools number one in America, about making college more affordable, all the kitchen table issues, stopping foreclosures. And so, when we engage in an economic debate, people are actually with us. And interestingly, in a state like Missouri, get this, Missouri, up and down their ticket, they have elected officials who are Republicans and were elected. And yet at the referenda on Election Day, their people marched to the polls and they voted for reproductive freedom. Yep. They voted for an increase in the minimum wage, and they voted for paid family leave. So we have to be the party that makes life more affordable for hardworking people who have been worked over for these last 40 years by this false economics of concentrating power, concentrating monopolies, concentrating money in the hands of the few. Our economy is not money. It is people. And that's what we need to speak to as a party.
Well, and the party is comprised of all sorts of people. We've obviously spent so much time in the last decade talking about the way in which the Republican Party has morphed in the Donald Trump era, and how there are divisions within that party of those who do follow him and maybe more defined as on the hard right. But we're seeing some of that in the Democratic Party as well, especially as everybody does this post-election analysis, if you will. And so I wonder, as you're making a bid here to lead the party forward, how you fit those pieces back together again so that there's enough cohesion to be able to stick together as a unit.
Yeah, our party is a party that has an enormous amount of diversity. And in fact, our diversity is our strength. But our strength when it comes to winning elections, again, is to speak to the national interest that we share. And there's nothing more important to the national interest than allowing families to be able to make a better tomorrow for their kids. So that's the thing that unites all of us. All of us have to eat. All of us have to work. All of us want to give our children a better future than the one that we've had. I mean, how sad is it, and what does it say about our country that, when unemployment's at an all-time low, that white male suicides are at an all-time high? There's an enormous fear of change and fear of the future that's gripping our country. And in moments of fear, as Donald Trump said in the past, once asked after the last election, how did you win? He said, I looked into the eyes of those blue-collar people and all across, Pennsylvania and Michigan. I saw their fear, and I tapped into it. So we should not be the party of fear. The leader of our party in modern times said we have nothing to fear but fear itself. This is a time of enormous economic opportunity in the world, the beginnings of a third industrial revolution, the dawn of a third American century. We need to stop fearing the future, embrace it, but we need a strong government that actually works, that delivers, and that has our back. What you're going to see, mark my words, is this administration is going to break a lot of things that Americans thought.
That's arguably what people voted for, is it not?
Well, we will see. I don't believe that's true. I believe that Americans, when they heard the message defend democracy, that they heard status quo. And I believe that when they see, if this administration starts breaking institutions that they had come to rely on and thought could never be broken, whether it's Medicare, whether it's Social Security, whether it's the infrastructure of our nation, they're going to cry out for a government that actually works and has their back. And the Democratic Party is going to have the backs of the working people of this country when we come out and emerge out of these next 2 years. But in the meantime, as a party, look, we need collaborative leadership. We need leadership that has experience in bringing people together, but also in orchestrating change, managing our way out of this as a better and more professional party, but also focusing on the next battlefront. Hakeem Jeffries is the general in that battle of the midterms. But in state offices, state legislatures all across America, county offices. We have to reconnect our national party with those men and women who are experiencing tremendous success in a lot of state houses all across America.
Voters who are not experiencing tremendous success. You talk about those scary ads. A lot of them worked, especially those that highlighted transphobia. And there's a Democrat from Massachusetts who we talk to pretty often here named Seth Moulton. He made big headlines saying that Democrats went wrong by leaning too far into identity politics. You may agree with him or not. But what does your DNC, if you get this job, look like when it comes to protecting or looking out for marginalized communities like trans?
We will make no compromise when it comes to our principles. And those core principles are our belief in the dignity of every person and our belief in the common good that we share as Americans. As I looked at the ads that were being run, it seemed that it was actually the other party that was obsessed with trying to divide us and trying to belittle transgendered people. It's the other party who came back into Congress and their very first act was about bathroom bills in an era when so many places have unisex, restrooms. What do unisex restrooms or not have to do with putting food on your table or educating your kids or keeping a roof over their head? We have to not allow ourselves to become juked, distracted by the politics of division and fear. Our politics is the politics that says we are one, our cause is one, we have to help each other if we are to succeed, and we need to build an economy and a country that works for all of us, not just for some of us.
Well, obviously right now, the U.S. economy and everything that has been built in large part has been underpinned by a growing deficit and debt problem, which it felt like in a lot of ways neither candidate was really willing to outwardly talk about on the campaign trail, in part because there's just things you can't touch politically, like Social Security, which obviously you're intimately familiar with, and Medicare. Defense is hard to touch as well. And I just wonder, no matter what party is in charge in the years to come, if you see a way in which the country can find itself on a more sustainable path.
Sure. I mean, one of the things that's happened in our country for the last, 30 years or more has been a great reduction in the amount of income tax that our highest earners pay. If we were to merely return to a level that was what we had as a nation during the first term of Ronald Reagan, a lot of those things would start to be addressed and would be addressed over time. Let me say, before I talk about Social Security, that I am here in my personal capacity. I am not here in my capacity as Commissioner of Social Security. However, I do know enough about that math to be able to tell you Social Security does not contribute to the national debt. It is a pay-as-you-go system, which means that as Americans pay into Social Security, those of us that are still working age, we pay out the benefits like an insurance company. So last year, $1.35 trillion came in from people working, $1.37 trillion went out to people who are retired and beneficiaries, and the difference came from the surplus reserve that was built up to cover this era of the baby boomers. That reserve is running out sooner, that surplus reserve is running out sooner than anticipated, and the reason is income inequality. In other words, in 1982, they thought they were setting a level of Social Security cap that would capture 90% of earnings in America. Instead, with all of the things that drove income out of most American homes and into the hands of the top 6%, that also reduced the bracket, if you will, so it only applied to 80% of income in America. So a simple solution to that is to ask people who make more to start contributing again. There's no cap on what people contribute to Medicare, and Social Security is doesn't contribute a dime to the national debt. It is a self-sustaining program. That doesn't mean that this new crowd can't break it. If they want to break it, they can break it. But that's not what 80% of Americans want.
Sure.
They want Social Security expanded and strengthened so that it's there not only in their lifetimes, but for their kids and their grandkids, which is also the same hopes and dreams they have for their nation.
All right, sir, thank you so much for joining us. Martin O'Malley, of course, knows Social Security very well, but he is also running to be the next chair of the DNC. Appreciate you joining us here in our Washington, D.C. studio.